Alrighty, we will kick off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar entitled How to Master the Art of CRM-driven Digital Marketing. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce you to today's presenters. First, I'd like to introduce our very special guest, Eve Tronson, VP of Digital Strategy, CRM, and Loyalty. She joins us from Viceroy Hotels and Resorts. In her role, she oversees everything digital, including CRM, digital advertising, website, social media, as well as Viceroy's Discovery Loyalty Program. Next in our lineup, we have Tina Markowitz, Sundine's VP of Global Digital Strategy. Tina leads our e-commerce strategic planning for Sundine's hotel customers. Her team provides clients with holistic and innovative digital marketing campaigns that drive profitable business results. Before we get started, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items so that you know how to participate in today's event. Today's session is being recorded, and you will receive a copy of the session via email shortly afterwards. All attendees are on mute, but if you'd like to ask a question, please type it in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your Zoom window. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation, and we will collect these and, time permitting, address them during the live Q&A session towards the end. And with that, I would like to turn things over to Eve to give us an introduction to Viceroy Hotels and Resorts.
Thank you so much, Grace. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's really a pleasure to have people join and listen to probably a great conversation to talk about how we utilize CRM. Viceroy is a global collection of modern luxury hotels, and what we like to say is that we have consistent individuality across our amazing portfolio. But they are strikingly individual between beaches, mountains, and cities that surround them. And so when you stay with Viceroy, our guest experience really is an unrivaled service, provocative design, and we try to really bring the vibrant reflection of the local culture and create stories that are really worth sharing. So thank you for having me today.
I can echo that. Having been lucky enough to stay at some of the Viceroy properties, it certainly is something to remember. So I will get started. So I think we all know how important first-party data is. You hear it constantly. It's really the hottest topic. And so this is really, thinking about how to best leverage your data when we're thinking about moving into, concerns like privacy, how people are being marketed to, and then also from the marketing side, how can we start to build these direct relationships and boost our advertising when we talk about things like cookies going away. So there's a lot of ways to gather first-party data. Eve, do you mind sharing some of Viceroy's tactics when it comes to collecting more information about their valued guests?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our guests are everything, and we like to make sure that everything we do is, surrounding the guest experience, but we also love to capture as much data about our guests as we can. So whether they're actually staying overnight or simply coming to the hotel to experience anything where they might be utilizing our Wi-Fi. So we do have direct connections from, accepting to utilize our Wi-Fi. We do pull that data into our CRM, as well as any of our third-party systems of collection, restaurant software, Cabana software, anything where we can capture data, we import that data where allowed into our CRM.
Love that. So from all of that data and being able to collect what guests are comfortable sharing, we know that the next step really is personalization, right? Not necessarily a nice to have, a tactic used only by really large companies, but really something that everybody should be thinking about when it comes to how to communicate with their guests. There are lots of stats, both in terms of consumer expectations about how they want to be marketed to, as well as the efficiencies gained when it comes to marketing spend on the advertiser, brand, hotel side. So when it comes to digital, how do we think about this, right? We want to make sure that we're able to leverage the CRM or first-party data. And we do that both the obvious way through email marketing, but being able to push that data then to your media strategy through different tactics. And then from a personalization standpoint, continuing that to the website. So newer for a lot of you folks joining, but thinking about how to really close the loop for that experience so that wherever they are coming from in their digital journey, they're landing on an experience on the website that aligns with how they have arrived there and what they're looking for. So when we talk about CRM data, really what you're trying to do is better understand your guest, whether that is family fun seekers or a party squad, whether it's a romantic escape, but who is it that's coming to your property, to your resort? And how can you start to understand what is going to motivate them to stay, right? So really being able to leverage your first party data, all that information you're gathering about your guests to start to understand who they are outside of just somebody who has stayed at your hotel for the weekend. And then once we understand the guest, we want to be able to apply this from a digital perspective. We really think about this in terms of two strategies. One is being able to find that exact human again, right? We call it really exact match, or being able to model audiences based off of your segmented data. Think about it as, your best guests that have spent the most, stayed the longest, stayed at the best time, whatever it happens to be in terms of how you think about best guests. How you want to find more of those people. We want to build lookalike audiences off of that data. So those are two sort of basic strategies when it comes to applying to digital marketing, and then we can push that across different channels. So you have your understanding of who your audience is, you know how to apply that data in terms of digital. And so this is just an example of how we think about somebody who has stayed in the past with a pet, right? Information that you can gather upon check-in, through the booking process. There's a couple of different ways. And then we're building an audience and targeting them on digital with these absolutely adorable photos of dogs. So in addition to having great creative that aligns with what you know with your audience, what are some other ways that we can think about improving performance on key drivers in terms of direct, right? All of this is really to continue to drive direct bookings. So when it comes to programmatic, you can think about starting to segment audiences based on different attributes. Think about length of stay, right? I had mentioned earlier, someone who has stayed for 7 days versus 2 days. Those types of guests, potentially more valuable for you as a hotel. When you think about paid search, how can you start to customize messaging for future or past guests a little bit differently? Some of those tactics. Somebody potentially who has booked already and they're continuing to search for the site because they want to visit prior to their actual stay, probably not worth paying for them to click on a paid search link, but you could suppress them from an audience standpoint. When it comes to paid social has great audiences. There's so much that social platforms know about you, but everybody's using the same data. You have such a valuable sort of treasure trove when it comes to your first party data. How can you use that to really start to stand out from a social standpoint by leveraging that information? And then on the OTA side, being able to alter your bid strategies, really competing with those OTAs more aggressively to drive the direct booking. So just a few different ways to start to customize your thinking when it comes to channel strategies leveraging your CRM data. And all of this together, sort of bringing it back full circle, is all the different ways throughout the guest journey that CRM data can be implemented, right? It can be all the way up in the dreaming phase in terms of, again, finding qualified prospecting audiences that look like your best guests, all the way down to the experiencing of being able to reach exact people who have stayed, are staying, will stay shortly with specific advertising. All right, so I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of how we started to leverage some of these strategies for Viceroy and some of the results, and then we will do some Q&A to get all of Eve's advice on her thoughts on the industry. So just to give a quick overview for Viceroy, so what we really did was segment the data to focus on best guests. So all of the audience analysis, things like that, we were able to pull out the data that we felt were the audiences we wanted to go after. We were able to apply those data sets to our key marketing channels and then continue to test these audiences against top performing segments. So while first party data is amazing and there's a lot of value to it, you don't want to arbitrarily throw it into campaigns if there are things that are working really well. And so I will say it's super important to continue testing and then optimize those campaigns, see what you want to further segment, and then customize the journey. So we've seen some really great success on our initial testing, leveraging CRM data for Viceroy that we want to talk about. But I will say this is by no means the sort of end of our journey. This is really just the beginning because there's so many more things that we can be doing. So in terms of social, what we've seen is applying this data, we start to think a little bit differently about some of the offers and some of the creative that we can be running against these different audience segments that we've implemented. And leveraging this data from a paid social standpoint has led to, ta-da, a 66% growth in conversion rate year over year and a 61% growth in return. So really impressive stats, which have certainly underpinned the necessity to start to continue testing with this data and continue to segment. On the programmatic side, same concept, being able to segment different audiences, apply them to what we're doing on the programmatic side has also shown great results. So we're really using this on programmatic for our prospecting audiences. And so together, what we've seen is the ability to drive really, really high increased reach. So I believe, you can go to the next one, about 111% increase in reach, leveraging this data, 28% increase in check avails. And then holistically, the campaign performance has resulted in a 15% increase in direct bookings. So really powerful stats that should show everyone on the call the importance of starting to test this data for your campaigns.
Fantastic. We can now move on to the Q&A as we want to hear from Eve and, gain her expert insights. We've already had a few questions come through the chat. So Eve, someone asks, if I don't have a digital marketing agency at my hotel's disposal, where would you suggest I start with personalization and segmentation? What are the basics of getting started?
That's a great question. Thankfully, we do have an excellent marketing agency that we are able to tap into. But if you don't, it's really important that you're collecting the data first, right? So utilizing your CRM or even just your email marketing platform to start personalizing messaging, communicate those offers, by the segments. But at the very least, I would say get that data and upload it for paid social media platforms, because that's probably the easiest entry step into utilizing that CRM data is uploading it. And then the system itself will create lookalike audiences. So that would be my recommendation.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Tina, anything else?
I would just say that I think for a lot of people who start to think about personalization and CRM data, get a little overwhelmed by conversations around segmentation. And so don't be afraid. You can at minimum take existing guests, right, past guests as an export. That's at least to start understanding how these sorts of audiences will work. And then you can go from there to start to segment, by season. So that would be another sort of easy cut in the data. You don't need to think about having to reach people who have booked a spa, stayed with the pet, with 2 kids during a certain weekend. That would overwhelm anybody. So just think about starting basic.
We've received a really nice compliment through the chat. Somebody says, the creative for Viceroy is always top tier. Have you found that lifestyle photography converts better than standard room photography in your campaigns?
That's an excellent point. And I'd like to give massive props to our brand team, as well as my my own director of marketing, where it really is about shifting from just a standard room shot, or just the usual breakfast shot to communicate it. It's especially with social and the ability to be much more authentic in the way that we display our imagery. This is a crucial point. So yeah, I would say, for so much of this type of advertising, it's really trying to get people to just, it's really the matter of giving them inspiration to come. And whether it's a room shot, yeah, I want to see what my room looks like, and I'm probably going to delve into that on the website. But what am I going to do there that's going to excite me? And even if I'm business travel, like, what is it about your property that brings in just more of that experiential component? So I would absolutely, first of all, thank our amazing brand team for creating such amazing videos and photography, but also would say definitely it's more about the ability to create the inspirational experience.
Yeah, I love that. First, I love that question for you, Eve, because I know it's such a point of passion. But just your point about, if I know that I'm going to stay in a room, if I'm going someplace, I will go to the website and look at the different room types, but that's not what's going to draw me into, think about booking a vacation or booking a room. It's really, what is the experience of being in this hotel? And even if it's a city property, it's the shot of the lobby. It's what ancillary services do you offer, even if it's just the gym or something like that. But really think about the person who's staying there, and they want to see more than just their room. Yeah,
you got to try to convey the vibe.
Yep, convey the vibe. I love
that. Fantastic. We have another question, Eve. How do you handle portfolio data versus individual property data? Do you approach that differently?
Okay, these are amazing questions. Yes, there is quite a difference between kind of the brand level data versus what we're doing with property level data. Brand meaning like the entire portfolio. And as you can easily see, we have a very diverse portfolio between mountains in Serbia and Snowmass to amazing beaches in St. Lucia and Los Cabos and Riviera Maya versus city centers like Chicago and DC. So and Santa Monica, of course. So how are we using all of this data? And I would say from the corporate perspective, we're really trying to create the inspiration. So we're informing the inspiration and the educational content. And then, so that's at our brand level marketing. And then at our individual properties, we become extremely tactical. So we leverage the data to really try to, pinpoint the proper offers and, more of that offer led.
Yeah, I would say then sort of translating that from a paid media standpoint as well, we really wouldn't use portfolio data to do specific campaigns for a property, because we really would be trying to find the best guests right for that property. As much as I personally as a consumer would absolutely say at all of the Viceroy properties, you do want to start to shape it around people who have been to city center versus a beach. Those are different types of travelers and different mindsets. So I think it's important to make sure that you're using the data appropriately. But there's a huge amount of value in if you do have multiple hotels and a brand that people relate to and resonate with, to be able to start to gain insight into your broader database and understand who is the Viceroy guest versus who is the person who's most likely to stay at Viceroy Chicago. So just thinking about it from a paid standpoint.
Thank you both. We have another question. It's a little bit similar to the first one, but you might have a different answer. So a hotelier is asking, what if my CRM data doesn't have enough information to make it actionable? What would you recommend?
Yeah, enough information to make it actionable. I mean, you could have as little as an email address where, again, that could help create a lookalike audience for you within certain systems. But I would say, for us, something that we are doing now is data appends. And so we're taking our entire database and we're consistently, like annual basis, running that through outside companies that have the big data to match it up, so we can learn even more about that particular customer, even if we only captured a name and email address, or didn't even get the email address and we've got like the name and the city and state. It's amazing what I think companies today can do to enhance that data and to just provide us with much more information. So I would say, a data appends is definitely an amazing way to really learn so much more about your customer.
In a privacy compliant manner. So,
of course.
It's interesting because we hear about the value of data, first party data. It's so important. But there are so many hotels who really struggle with anything other than sort of basic check-in information, first name, last name, things like that. And so you really do need to think about a strategy to start collecting more than that, even if it's training the front desk to ask one specific additional question and then write that down within their profile. Start to take small steps towards better understanding your guests, because that will really pay a lot of dividends as we move forward in the future.
Yeah, Tina, that's an excellent point, and one that I was so focused on and excited about our data appends that.
Yes, I know.
That I really, to make sure that you're training and making sure that the front office really understands the reasons behind it, and encouragement of how important it is to collect as much data as the customer is willing to provide. We also are very fortunate to be part of GHA, the Global Hotel Alliance loyalty program. And so, we have the opportunity to collect even more data by providing these loyalty features, whether or not you're earning, just by providing information, you're going to be earning discovery dollars that you can use, on this stay or any stay across all of our GHA Discovery loyalty partners. So giving the guests something in return is always a great way to collect more data.
Yep. Absolutely. People are very, very happy to share their information if they see some value in doing so, as opposed to just saying, hey, we really want to know as much about you as you possibly can. And the consumer doesn't know where any of that information is going. Even something as, I think about the, pet audience. If somebody is checking in through your booking engine, the possibility exists that, are you staying with a pet exists as either an upcharge as part of the checkout process, a way for you, to gain ancillary revenue, or even as I'm staying with, let us know if you're staying with a pet, and being able to then talk to your CRM company, make sure that that's a field that they're able to pull in so that pets is information you now have. One would argue that pet owners are much more receptive to photos of pets in your creative. I know I am. So again, there's a lot of different ways to start to think about being able to use your CRM data, append your CRM data, get more information about your guests, and then be able to apply that to have smarter marketing and being able to build a better long-term, marketing program.
It looks like we have a few more questions. Someone's asking, what do you look for in a digital marketing agency / how can you get the most out of that relationship?
Yeah, I think, there are some amazing digital marketing agencies out there. For Viceroy and for me, in particular, I feel it's so important. Our industry is very nuanced, and it is important to me to be working with a partner that understands the industry really well, and also brings in people from outside of the industry within their organization, so that it's, we're not just, tunnel vision on the way we do things. We all know, some things within the hotel industry can be antiquated, but
we're working on it. We're working on it.
I'm not saying Sendine, but I'm saying in general, yeah. And by having the ability to have an agency with that experience, but also a comprehensive range of services. If they're just a one-trick pony, they may not have like the greater knowledge of how what we're doing here may affect their, whether it's how our paid search works together with our SEO. And we're fortunate enough to utilize Sendine in very much in a 360. This was my vision when I came on board with Viceroy years ago, was to really, not have this vendor fatigue with, one vendor doing this thing and another vendor doing that thing. Yes, we need checks and balances, but the systems that your vendor can provide, transparency with the results, that's really, more important than, having to have 10 different calls with 10 different companies to produce a result that really should be, a full circle strategy. So, we definitely develop and work together with our agency for each individual hotel goal, along with brand goals. But most definitely, I would prioritize the communication with your agency, as well as the agency's transparency in providing the results, regular check-ins. I mean, I probably work together with our Sendine account management team, whether it's website, performance marketing, or CRM, on the daily. So all in a positive way. It's I don't just pick up the phone when something's off the rails. We're constantly trying to innovate together and just have as many open discussions and dialogues as we can.
Yeah, I would say, again, just from the other side, I think the partnerships and the relationships we have that are the most successful are really with clients and client partners that come in with a clear understanding of what they want and how they work best, right? I could argue that's similar to any relationship, right? If you come in and you understand this is what I need, this is what I'm looking to get from you, things tend to work and be on the up and up. And so an agency relationship is not much different, I suppose.
Oh, that's so true. And I would definitely agree that when you are working with your agency, I mean, you've got to have people that you can communicate with, very well. And if that isn't working, if
Yep.
there's just something happening there, then that agency should be able to, bring people that are, going to have this communication with you that is going to, just elicit growth and not roadblocks. So, I think if something isn't working out, you got to speak up, and you just, in the most, positive way that you can, you just continue to grow and evolve the relationship. You also have to understand, like, things don't happen sometimes like that.
That's what I love you, Eve.
That's always an education, I think, for people, that may be used to just drilling into numbers. Is marketing, there is like an evolution within it. So the moment you throw up your paid social ad, it's not like going to happen right away. It's just, we continually work and evolve and give things time to ramp up. But then after ramp up period, if things aren't
Working, change strategy.
Keep changing, or go with what's working together, and just continually try to grow and innovate together.
I have lots of questions. I'm going to merge some of them together. There's a lot that's come through. Of course, there's a question that's come through about AI, because isn't that a hot topic? So I guess I can incorporate that into another question. Are there any innovative or emerging digital marketing tactics that, Viceroy or Sendine, that you've seen that, there's a plan to implement them in either the short or long term?
Well, you can't have a webinar in 2023 or 2024
without saying AI.
I mean, yeah, I am so excited for AI in the respect that it can just offload some of the manual work. I mean, machine learning, the ability to input data, and then, machine learning can then provide you with better direction and personalization. This is definitely an area that we're looking forward to utilizing more than, just throwing in a question on ChatGPT.
Also brings value, so very useful.
Less manual, more machine learning and AI. That's the direction.
Yeah. I think AI is really interesting for hotels specifically, because there's so much that's still human interaction when it comes to the experience, right? I think almost more so than any other industry, it's so much about the human interaction. And so how can hotels think about using AI to make the points at which humans interact better and more effective, and I hate to say it, personalized? So how can you, think about the intake, right? When someone is booking, what information do you need from them to start to personalize? How can AI make that process faster? How can you use AI tools to understand things like reviews in order to improve servicing going forward, right? If there's thousands of reviews, it takes somebody a long time to go through and sort of summarize what are the things that, sort of general things that people are complaining about, but AI tools allow us to, get key points really quickly. So some of those sort of quick wins from a sort of operational standpoint on the hotel side, I think, are really interesting as we start to think about better improving our experiences holistically and interaction with guests.
Fabulous. Well, what's more stereotypical than ending a 2024 webinar on the emergence of artificial
AI, yep.
intelligence? Yep. I think we will then wrap it up for today. Before closing, I'd really just like to extend a special thank you to Eve and Tina
Yep.
for joining us to share their expert insights in today's session. Also, thank you to the many of you who joined us here on this call today and submitted some lovely inquisitive questions. If you'd like any more information about Send9 CRM or digital marketing services, please do, visit send9.com or contact us at info@send9.com. So thank you again, Eve and Tina. This is a fantastic session, and we hope everybody enjoys the rest of your day.